Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. Today I'm very briefly going over the new Valfor Esper and Vision card that was released, with some brief, quick hit thoughts on the mastery upgrades to the Final Fantasy X characters as well. So it's the Vision card, the Esper, and then the three characters, very high level in terms of my thoughts and where the applicability and value of it really lies. So the Vision card in particular is really the mainstay of the release this week. The Esper overall for Valfor is semi-lackluster. It's a little more niche, but the Vision card by and large does have some good value. It's not one that you might prevalently use, but will definitely be a nice Swiss Army knife to throw into a few different comps. So the Valfor Vision card itself gives an extra 15 TP, 308 HP, and 164 magic to the unit. Does increase the unit's magic by 10%, their AoE resistance by 10, and another 10% of HP to that unit, kind of here in the asterisk as the global buff. For the party effects, though, it's magic attack resistance penetration of 35, which is actually kind of new to Vision cards, which is very cool to finally see get thrown out here. You also get the increase to magic attack of 18 and the Dark Killer 25. That's really the shining star here in terms of the broader applicability of the Vision card, because the rest of it is definitely a little more niche. And the reason why I say that is if you really were to bring up the light cast units, and I will focus only on the URs for the moment, if you were to go through the list and say, well, who really does do pure magic attack types, not things that just scale off your magic stat like Elena's main job or Jaden's main job, it's only a handful. So Jaden technically does have a Black Mage sub-job that you really will never use, so I don't see an instance where you would start. And then for the Red Mage, you would really use Jamming Thrust, which definitely does get some upside value here of the magic resistance penetration. So this to me is a big perk that Jaden will definitely do more damage because of it. But as you go through the rest of the characters, it really then comes down to Mashri, Sakura, and Yuna, all of which are a little bit more power crept at the moment. Mashri definitely is not going to get a significant amount of upside from this. Sakura is probably the biggest benefactor in my opinion, where because she is a offensive oriented character, she's going to get a lot of value with the magic resistance penetration, the magic up, and her kit is good enough to do damage that she will benefit from it given the spear penetration that she now has as well, at least on the Rebel Intention ability, which is one of her more spammable abilities. But the rest of it, if you recall, she actually does have magic attack resistance penetration already of 40. If you can throw on another 35, that is a pretty awesome tank busting potential that she now has. And Yuna, although she will definitely benefit, I unfortunately think they missed the mark on her just a little bit, and it's partly related to her mastery upgrade. So I'm going to talk to that in a second in terms of why this isn't as big of a buff to Yuna as you might think overall. But overall, Vision cards are definitely a premium to pull. This is really the main reason why you would pull it, because when you get into the Esper, it is a good Esper, don't get me wrong. The stats overall are pretty par for the course. Magic-oriented Esper, so this is one that would go on a magic unit with 16 agility. So relatively average in the middle of the lane there. But the nice thing about this, given that it's a light oriented Esper, is that there is actually no innate weakness or dark weakness to it. The limit break itself definitely is a little bit different in that it does offer the light imperil of 50%, which some of the others do not. And from a magic oriented standpoint, sure, Summer Kilf and Lucio both have light imperil in their kits, but they're obviously not magic-oriented units, so it's nice that you can get this via a different way, and that it is a magic-type attack, so it will also be amplified by the magic resistance penetration from whoever casts it. But that's obviously just one piece of the Esper. The board itself is a relatively good board. It's light attack, magic attack, but there's one big similarity here, and that's if you were to compare them to Carbuncle. It's almost carbon copied how similar they really are effectively. Now the big difference here is the dexterity that Valfor offers, in my opinion. That's a 14 is a decent enough increase. It's not game breaking, but it's really the most material thing here in terms of differences. They obviously have different status element resistances, but then they both also have no elemental strength or weakness in terms of the elements, so Carbuncle also does not have a dark weakness. And if you were to compare their boards side by side, 80% of it's pretty similar. It's light attack, magic attack, dark killer, 7 evasion, 15% dark resistance, 7 accuracy, and then they both have missile resistance. Valfor only has 15 compared to Carbuncle's 20, but the real big differentiator here is that Valfor does offer 200 decrease of attack activation time. So that is a nice thing for the damage casting abilities of the light units, or really any unit, because that obviously applies to any spellcaster. And then the 20 evocation gauge boost is kind of in line with the Magistral Rod, but as we've seen before, it's hard to really quantify the value of that overall. So that's probably more PvE oriented in my opinion, and that's where Valfor really gets some of the upside here, is for future PvE content where you can reduce the cast time potentially. That's a good strength overall. So if you are pulling for Valfor, it really is more for the vision card side of things, which does have some niche applications, but it's really the Dark Killer that makes Valfor's vision card shine, where that is applicable to all light units, not just the magic casters. So that to me, is in that balance of light versus dark, really does have the upside there that some of the other cards may not have. Now, getting into the mastery upgrade abilities, Titus definitely got a nice quality of life one that keeps him a little more competitive with where the game has moved. And these were some of the first EX units, so they have been a little power crept since then. Slash attack resistance penetration of 30, and they bulked him up a little bit, giving 10% resistance to slash and missile. Overall, nice bump to keep him a little more competitive, but very hard to see him still being at the top tier of the game. Definitely still an amazing PvE unit, though, one of the best when you have water-oriented PvE events going on. Now for Yuna, this is where I think they missed the mark a little bit. They did want to increase her damage just a little bit, so they gave her the light attack of 15, the decrease of both the none and attack skill activations, so both offensive and defensive skills. This is definitely probably the best thing about it, where a lot of times she would cast Kiraga, be a little too slow, and your teammate who was waiting to get healed would die before the cast went off. This absolutely could be a little wrinkle that makes sure that that happens less frequently, but 200 overall, still not enough, I think, to really make it a guarantee. And the light attack 15, even when you consider it in conjunction with the Valfor vision card in terms of magic attack and magic resistance penetration, one of the downsides of Yuna is that she has no innate spear penetration, which is a big F in terms of her doing damage. That if you are going to be attacking magic-oriented tanks, or really any tank in particular, if you cannot penetrate their spirit at all, I don't care how much you increase the modifier by, they're still going to resist a fairly large amount of that. So overall, I think they slightly missed on Yuta in terms of, increasing the damage, because at the end of the day, I don't know if it's going to be all that material, at least not on tanks. On non-tanks, certainly going to help overall. And then for Auron, similar to Tidus, this is really just to make sure that he's a little more competitive with the current state of the game. The slash attack resistance penetration, the limit break now grants him a general barrier that reduces damage 50% for 3 turns, really kind of in line with his kit as this bulkier unit overall. But when you particularly look at the Ice Cast, how many good slash attack units they have, really hard to make a case for why this Auron will come to any kind of limelight like he may have been upon release, where now the defense penetration that he had is a little more common among some of the top tier characters. But if you don't have them, Auron certainly is still among one of the better tank busters given the strike damage as well. He's just more limited to attack types given how short range and how limited in elevation he is. So overall, this is an interesting week. It's nice that they've rerun this for players that might have missed out on the first run of this. The Titus card is definitely an amazing water card to pick up as well. And although Valfor may not be a must pull, and even the vision card being a little more niche overall, it's still a nice addition to the game to be able to add that decrease of attack activation time on that, in addition to what Siren already has. So now that you have some options there at least. So thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck pulling for whatever you may, and I'll talk to you all soon.